I'd rather a 10.
Yeah.
And you don't understand. Well, I'm a 10. I go to school, I go to work, and I have a great personality, and
Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. Nowadays, it seems that all women, regardless of their own attractiveness, is walking around thinking they're a perfect 10 out of 10. All forms of modesty and simple common sense have gone straight out the window, and it seems all women are walking around with a chip on their shoulder thinking they're God's gift to mankind. Well guys, in this video I'm going to be outlining the 8 reasons, yeah you heard that right, 8 reasons, for why the rate of attractiveness inflation is going through the roof, or in simple words, why every woman now thinks in 2021 she's a perfect 10. Number 1, and this should be by far the biggest reason, simping. Now, the thing with simping is that a lot of people mistake for it only going in one direction. They think it only goes from the bottom up. It's the low value men at the bottom who are bombarding the women at the top with endless amounts of free attention, validation, and God forbid, money by paying for things like OnlyFans. But in reality, all women across the board of attractiveness have an endless selection of simps to provide these things. Because what ends up happening is the simps start by throwing attention, money and validation at the most attractive women, but when they don't get anything in return, they have no choice but to move down to the next level, and then the next level, and the next and the next. So it's just this endless cycle of simps undercutting other simps. And whoever undercuts and simps the most supposedly wins in the end. Yeah, that last bit's important, supposedly. Because what happens next is all the low value women at the bottom, who now have a fresh crate of simps to choose from, have this backwards rationalisation. Well, this is interesting. I'm getting all of this validation. Therefore, this must mean I am special. Therefore, I must also be highly attractive. So the final piece of the puzzle, and also why simping never works, is all of the women at the bottom who have been senselessly simped over have now had their egos inflated beyond return. And all that's been left is the guys at the bottom have now lost a ridiculous amount of their own time, energy and resources, and all for nothing. Now the last point I'm going to make on this before I move on to the next reason is this is exactly why I have zero sympathy for simps. Because the only impact that simps have on the dating market is inflating women's egos, which in turn messes up the system and spoils it for anyone else who actually had a chance. Anyway, now moving on to point number 2 for why women overestimate their worth. Women equating their hookup options to their actual value. Now, because of the nature of the current dating market, just about every average woman, and in fact even some below average women, have access to regular intimacy and hookups from the guys at the top. Chad is shared between everyone. Now, what this means is the women in the middle end up thinking this. Well, I can hook up easily with Chad. However, Chad doesn't want to commit. Therefore, all I need to do is just find one that will commit. So back to the dating market, all the average women end up wasting time chasing and trying to pin down the Chads, and they string along and friend zone all of the guys they're actually on the same level with. The ones who would have given an equal relationship. But instead, the women's attention is all focused on the top 10 to 15% of guys who they are able to hook up with, but not willing to give their commitment. Women, just because you can hook up with someone doesn't mean you're on their level, and certainly doesn't mean you can get commitment from them either. Moving on to point number 3, acceptance of unattractiveness. And this does not apply to men. It's almost exclusively for women. And this is mostly the result of feminism. Now, this idea in the last 10 years has pretty much stepped in and said all women, irrespective of their own attractiveness, are all deserving of a perfect 10. This belief system has tried to force down society's throat that all women, of all shapes and sizes, are all attractive in their own unique way. It is seen as grossly inappropriate to highlight the flaws in a woman's beauty, even if said flaws pose a huge risk to their physical health and can greatly reduce their life expectancy. Therefore, they are instead celebrated. And I've talked about this in my previous videos. I'll say again, Try typing the words plus size into Google. There will not be one man in sight. In fact, I could bet money that you'd be scrolling for longer than the length of this video in order to just find one single man. Moving on to point number 4, the media promoting delusion. Now, before I cover this point, because I'm about halfway through the video, now is a good time to press the like button and leave any thoughts you have in the comments below, as it helps the YouTube algorithm. Anyway, carrying on with the video, media promoting delusion. Now, about 5 years ago, there was this film that came out called 50 Shades of Grey, and in fact, the book that it was based on was one of the highest grossing of the decade. And if you've not heard of this film or the book before, it's basically about this billionaire Chad who goes for and ends up in a relationship with some fairly average woman. A similar storyline happens in other movies and TV shows, such as the highly acclaimed Sex and the City. This series, too, showed women, despite being in their 30s and 40s, still being able to pin down and get commitment from Chads. So the point I'm trying to make here is that the media is portraying the idea that any woman, irrespective of what she brings to the table, can get a relationship from a Chad, no matter how old or average. Now moving on to point number 5, ego. Now, I didn't know just how big of a reason this was until I came across this scientific study titled Resisting Connection Following Social Exclusion. Now, this study attempted to see how a woman would react when first being approached by an attractive man, and then afterwards being approached by a less attractive man. The results were as followed. When the attractive man accepted the woman was also very likely to accept the less attractive man. In fact, he was accepted an average of 80%. Now, this isn't surprising, because after she gets accepted by the attractive man, she's probably feeling quite good about herself, and she's got nothing to lose by accepting the less attractive man, so she also gives him a pass. However, for the second part of the study, when the woman gets first rejected by the attractive man, they found she was then much less likely to accept the less attractive man's advances. In fact, his acceptance rate dropped from 80% to a staggering 24%. That's nearly a 4 times drop. And the reason for this is because after the first rejection, she probably felt violated and had taken a huge blow to her self-esteem. So to recover and attempt to regain some of her self-worth, she lashes out on the less attractive guy by rejecting him. Now, I found this study very interesting because it shares such close parallels to the current dynamics of the dating market. Because think about online dating, and for those who don't know how the Tinder algorithm works, the most popular profiles are shown first. So these are shown at the top of the card stack, and are the first profiles a woman will see after logging on. Meanwhile, the less attractive profiles are shown last. Therefore, if an average or below average woman gets mostly negative responses from the popular profiles, the attractive ones, then the study shows the woman getting butthurt from this will result in her lashing out on the lower ranked profiles, and she will do this in order to rebuild some of her self-respect. Point number 6, a woman and her blue-pilled friends inflating her ego. Now, the 2 screenshots showed on either side of the screen are typical of the comments a woman will expect to see on her Instagram profile. So of course we have a couple simps giving her free validation, and I have checked their profiles and they are actually guys. But what's arguably more concerning is her and all of her female friends blowing smoke up one another. In my experience, I see these types of comments vastly outnumbering the ones sent from simps. Here's where you'll see the comments like, "My queen, you're gorgeous, stunner, you go girl." And the dumbest part about all of this isn't the comments themselves, rather it's the people that are sending and receiving them. Women will believe anything their friends tell them these days. So if 20 of a girl's female friends are sending these copy and paste comments on every post she uploads, even if the girl herself is average to below average in looks, she's still going to walk away patting herself on the back, thinking she's a lot more attractive than she actually is, thinking she's a perfect 10. Point number 7, entitlement. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was watching a Darius M video, who's actually one of my favourite channels, and I remember him saying there are a lot more overweight women than men. And after that video, I looked it up and it's true. This is data from the NHS website in the UK, My Country. And for 16 to 24-year-olds, there are 2 times more obese women than men, 20% versus 10%, and it's a similar pattern for the 25 to 34-year-old age range. And I remember Darius saying the main reason for this is because women don't get in shape because they have no need to. The truth is, men know that if they're obese, no woman is going to want to be with them. But most women know, especially those who are overweight, that men will still be attracted to them even if they are packing extra pounds. And they will be able to tell you that from experience. Now, if this reason is true, then it shows they have a sense of entitlement. It shows they're entitled to somebody more attractive than they are, despite bringing far less to the table and putting in little to no effort. And in fact, I've even seen this in my own personal experiences. I've literally heard overweight women say that they will never date an overweight man. That is entitlement at its simplest form. Finally, moving on to point number 8, coping. What I've noticed is nearly every woman, if you ask them the top 3 things that make them attractive, it will almost undoubtedly be a completely different list from another woman's. Just like the woman from the clip at the beginning. Her 3 reasons for why she is a perfect 10 was because she goes to school, goes to work, and has a good personality. But based on how pretentious she was being, I very much doubt there's much truth to this last one. This woman, if she believes that these 3 things alone make her a perfect 10, is almost certainly coping. Because here are the actual 3 things that men care about most. The holy trinity of what actually makes a perfect 10. First of all, hot. This means not overweight. 2, young, or in other words, under 30. And 3, undamaged. This means not promiscuous, and also no kids. This is what men actually want. And the funny thing is, what I've noticed is when women are young, when they list reasons of what makes them attractive, they're likely to say things such as, I'm pretty, fit, young, therefore this makes me an 8. Meanwhile, when you ask older women, or even worse, the exact same women but just 10 to 15 years older, they're likely to give you a different list of the things that make them attractive. Such as, I have a career, I have 2 gorgeous kids, and am financially stable. Therefore, I'm also an 8. This is also coping. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, these days, nearly every woman has their own list of cope reasons for why they're more attractive than everyone else. And they will change it where they see fit and based on their own strengths. But the truth is, men see very little value outside of the holy trinity of female attractiveness. All lists that deviate from these 3 things are coping. Anyway guys, that's it for my 8 reasons for why most women massively overestimate their own attractiveness. If I've missed any, feel free to leave any extras in the comments below, and make sure you press the like button as it helps the YouTube algorithm.